Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us again for another episode. And we've got an interesting question this week that's been posed to us: is, do businesses place enough emphasis on generating, investigating, and trialing new ideas? And it's an interesting idea, to coin a phrase, because really new ideas, I think it's whether the business in the first place actually allows new ideas to come into it. And there are so many different areas that can, have an impact. And each of us here today represents a different area of the business. And certainly, I know from a marketing perspective, there are new ideas all the time. But one of the big things that I try and do is help businesses actually generate new ideas in the first place of where they want to go. But how much emphasis they actually place on it in different aspects of the business is the first question, if they allow it at all. So, Eyal, what's your experience in terms of IT?
Yeah, I think usually we look at ideas as something big, and many of the small businesses don't have really time to put aside the day-to-day hustle and think about new ideas. But I think, and my experience with many companies that I work with, that ideas are coming just from anyone in the organization, and it can be just an idea come up through a conversation around the coffee machine. So I sometimes you need to put the time aside to think about it and brainstorm new ideas. But I think you need to be more aware of the conversation that you have and hear from your people and find out the new ideas in the conversation, the day-to-day conversation that you have during the day.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, especially on the feedback from staff, because from processes perspective, from my experience, I saw that in many businesses, especially small businesses, founder or head of the company usually drives everything, and not always listening to the people who are really doing the work. And this is where the big gap is happening, when someone from the higher vision looking at the processes and think they should work this way and they should be efficient, when other people who are really doing the work, they know much better what's going on inside. Anthony?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's an interesting thing. I've talked a lot about bosses who are either closed door or open door. And if you want to have a culture of innovation and certainly of generating new ideas, then it needs to be an open door policy. You need to create a forum in which people can share ideas, and it's not a case of knocking them down because they're stupid, because there's no idea that's too stupid. It's always worth exploring them, and then driving them down and deciding what you should be pursuing. But of course, there are ideas that you're generating that are new, and then there are ideas of bringing other things into the business that already exist. And there's plenty examples in marketing all the time. There's new systems, new apps, new this and that, and whether they add value to a business or not is always the question. And so you need a culture of also being able to trial these things. And, I guess each of you in different areas of the business would have an understanding of how long that trial needs to last in order to make it work. In my experience, it needs to be 2 or 3 months, to really invest properly in trialing something before you can make a decision. Is this adding value, or is it taking up too much time? Is it actually, of benefit to the business? And that can be a difficult process. You can't do that all the time. So you do have to have a process for selecting those kinds of ideas and giving some budget towards it, Pierre. You've got to put money into these things, don't you?
Well, that's one of the points I just wanted to raise, Anthony. I think generally being from a finance point of view, we tend to be risk averse, and doing trials and those kind of things, we always see as we want to see the benefit beforehand rather than be told that it will be good and things will change and it will be better in the end. But like you said, I think with a budget, setting the right budget and setting the right timeline and actually putting measurable key objectives in at certain points in time, that's a good way for a business to monitor whether or not the whole process and the whole project's on the right track. Keith?
Yeah, I think certainly a budget is right, but from my perspective, I've worked with a number of organizations over time. It's really about developing a culture of continuous improvement rather than trying to go from the start. It does take time to get everyone like-minded and thinking about how we change it. And really, continuous improvement, looking at ideas is part of that business as usual. It becomes part of the DNA of the business. So you're always looking and you're finding ways, and the sort of the budgetary side of it becomes irrelevant, because as you get into that sort of culture, it's just second nature that you're always looking for a better way of doing things, more effective way of doing things, and you sort of like put those measures in place.
Another thing to add, I think new ideas, they're not always successful, but we really, part of the question was trialing new ideas. We need to be open-minded about trying new ideas and be prepared to fail and see it as part of the process, and not discourage us from not trying new ideas.
I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, it's you don't learn unless you try, and it is a learning opportunity. So it's so important to take the knockbacks as well, because other things will come out of it. You may well find a different way of tackling it than you initially thought was going to be the case. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, I think that you have to take you have to take each idea and really have a structure to how you're going to assess it, because there's different ways of measuring success, and it's also about being in tune with who it's for and who it's actually going to benefit. And because sometimes the expectation of ideas can be far larger, and it's actually really getting people to properly invest, at least in a sample group, and taking it to the next level. Yuri, what's been your experience with it?
Well, I have an experience working with probably the most static industries, lawyers and banks. The industries that now craving for the big change, but they are too massive to start moving. But in last couple of years, I've seen in both of them quite a good shift, which is good. I just wanted to add on the Eyal's point about be ready to fail, and not just be ready to fail, be ready to learn from your fail and success. It is super important to reassess, regardless of whether it was success or failure, to find out what has worked and what hasn't. So to understand which way, what to apply for the next trial, and what not to do. And it's also, there are two ways. Some people prefer to fail big, some people to fail fast. So fail big is just to develop something, build the bridges and do something, make it ideal and then launch. And this is 50-50, like a lottery sometimes. And fail fast, just make small changes, continuous improvement, as Keith mentioned, which makes it much quicker turnaround and reduces risk massively.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of important points in what you're saying there, and it's being prepared to have all of that stuff. I think that's the key here is having going back to where we started from. It's having an environment that allows ideas to be presented and to trial them. It's interesting. Even this week, I met with an existing client who said, "Let's trial a few new things. We need to do a few new extra things. What can we do?" And we brainstormed a few ideas, and we're going to implement a few of those in the coming months. And you learn from these things. And I think that's also about one of the important things about ideas and encouraging and fostering those is taking it outside of the group as well. Networking, going and listening and reading about new things that are happening that might inspire you to either implement those in your business or to generate new ideas based on what those are, because that's where you learn from, Eyal.
I know. I'd give you an example from IT perspective of trying new ideas. You can trying on a small group, or on if it's a new feature that you want to test in your software, you're testing it in a sandbox. You don't necessarily need to go big and all the way to test new ideas. And I believe it's relevant to any area, not just IT, that you can test it on a small group or a small group of clients, and see how your new idea actually affect your business.
Pierre, how are you feeling in terms of financing all of this? That's what I want to know. I mean, I know you alluded to it before about being conservative naturally in the finance department, but is there really a budget for ideas? I mean, is that something that in all seriousness should we be putting aside?
I think in the current environment, businesses have to put something aside for innovation and for that development of new ideas. And I think Yuri summarized it very well earlier when he said, a lot of times businesses push from the top down instead of listening from the bottom up, where the people who are doing the work are actually providing those ideas and saying, "Hey, I think this is a good one." And there are times when there's a big investment, and there are times when a small investment will actually a small investment or a new idea will actually pay off in quite a radical way for a lot of businesses. And it's about listening. It's about making sure that whatever new idea we're going to trial, again, it's measured, and the impact of it is measured, and also having those milestones to see whether we're on the right track, and when we decide to carry forward to carry on or move forward with it. Ariel?
So, I was just going to cut in there and say to everyone, here's a new idea, have an idea. That's probably the lesson out of it today, and to actually explore it and not be afraid to explore the different opportunities that are there and put some structure in place to it. But I think that if you are not listening to your audience, and your audience is your staff and as well as your clients and many others, and cultivating what is next, then the risk is that you fall behind. So I think that's probably the message from today's discussion. And thanks for sending it in. We welcome any more questions that people have and want us to explore from all of our different perspectives. So please drop us a line or send us a message, whatever's easiest for you, wherever you see this podcast. So we look forward to hearing from you next time, and also bringing you the next topic in our podcast series.